Hello, I'm Roisin Hastie with the BBC News. First gold of the Paris Olympics has gone to China as a host of events gets underway. Teenagers Sheng Han and Wang Yuting won the 10-metre air rifle shooting, leaving South Korea with a silver. The BBC's reporters
Of these games going to China. So there you go. Two teams hear from Britain's medalists, first medalists of the Games very shortly, but let's just move away from Paris and go to Edgbaston, day 2 of the third test, England against the West Indies, and the hosts have got a fight on their hands here, Dan Norcross.
Well, they do. They're 105 for 5. That actually represents something of a recovery. They were 54 for 5 after losing 2 early wickets today. Pope dragging on Shamar Joseph early on, and then Harry Brook edging behind. That was 54 for 5 at that stage. Now Joe Root and Ben Stokes have got a bit of a recovery job going. Root has 41, Stokes has 17. I'm alongside former England batter Mark Ramprakash. These two are just showing that there are no real demons in the pitch, aren't they, Mark?
Absolutely, yeah. Joe Root looks at his best. His alignment looks good, balance, timing. He's playing the ball late. He's a real craftsman. I mean, is it any wonder that he's scored the amount of runs that he has in his career? He's an absolute class act, and he's going along quite serenely, ticking the ball over, scoring both sides of the wicket as he often does. And Ben Stokes, the England captain, who's probably due a score, he's looked pretty good. He's hit the middle of the bat with some drives and square cuts, and has looked quite composed. Sometimes recently when we've watched them play, they've looked a bit frenetic, but these two have brought a calmness to the crease, and as you rightly say, there are no gremlins in this pitch. The ball hasn't particularly swung this morning, and both players are looking quite secure.
It was a frantic start though. England still 177 runs in deficit. What do you think they'll be looking to do? Get up to parity, I suppose, or keep them in the game? Because batting last, it could get a little bit up and down.
Well, I think both players shouldn't really look too far ahead. They're building a really nice partnership at the moment. They've got a left-hand, right-hand combination, and both of them should be thinking, personally, if they do well, that's good for the team.
Joe Root has become the leading run scorer in tests at Edgbaston in history, and he's also now just 18 runs away from 12,000 in test cricket. Only one other man for England has done that. Alistair Cook, 106 for 5. Root has 42. Stokes has 17.
Thank you both. Sports Extra if you want to listen to commentary of the cricket this afternoon. So we're here in Paris, opening day of the 2024 Olympics, and Team GB has its first medalists of the Games, Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew Jensen. It came in the diving. They won bronze in the women's synchronised 3-metre springboard final, and after the medal ceremony they spoke to Jonathan Overend.
What was the pressure like delivering your dives today, but also, Scarlett, waiting for everyone else?
Oh my gosh, I haven't competed in a very long time, and for that to be my first event after a while was ridiculous. I was very, very shaky, but I knew I could trust in Yaz, and I knew I had to trust in myself, that I've done the dive so many times. But yeah, I mean, afterwards was also ridiculous. We knew that, yeah, we needed a really good one, but we couldn't have done any more, so you're stood there helpless. But yeah, I mean, I can't really describe it.
Yasmin, there was an image of shock on your faces when Australia messed up their final dive, which is such a rarity at the highest level, isn't it? What was that moment like, that sort of realisation that you were in, basically?
Well, it's hard to describe because on our last dive, we did everything we could. So we had stood there for a few minutes just waiting to see, we knew it was going to be really tight. And when the Australians failed to deliver on their final round, I think we were just in such shock because we kind of just thought that this was going to be a 4th place for us. But then for that to happen and to be coming away with a bronze medal is amazing.
We also PB'd as well,
yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, so you got a personal best today.
It's an amazing achievement, and hopefully the start of a medal rush for the team. How much confidence do you think is that going to give everyone else who was watching, cheering, knitting away in the stands?
We've got such an incredible team with us here at this Olympics, as well as the last and a few before that, but I think we've definitely got the strongest team here this year, and I've got every faith in all of them to go out there and show what we're all made of, and hopefully bring home some more silverware.
You have a little chink of the Eiffel Tower around your neck, and it's embedded in your bronze medal. Fantastic, well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew Jensen after their bronze in the women's synchronised 3-metre springboard final. First female diving medal for 64 years. Britain's first medal on the opening day of the Games since Athens 2004. If you've been listening this morning, you will have heard Lewis Smith yelping alongside Eleanor Oldroyd, which means, Ellie, it's been a good morning for Britain's men in the gymnastics.
Yeah, I think he's allowed to yell, actually.
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, and we've just been talking, actually, Paul Hall, who is their chances of the individual apparatus finals and for the all-around as well, the individual all-around final. And Max Whitlock crucially through as well on pommel horse. So who's your money on to make finals next week?
Oh, I mean, I think it's safe to say you've got team final and Jake and Joe in the all-around. I think we've got a good chance of making 7 apparatus finals. 4 of those I would say are dead certs already.
Yeah.
And the other
So we're talking about Max on the pommels.
Max on the pommel. You've got
Jake Jarman
on the floor.
Yeah.
Harry on rings.
Harry Hepworth. His first Olympics.
And
Joe Fraser on parallel bars, you said. Yeah, the thing though, chaps, is we've got quite a long time to wait, because in this afternoon session, which starts at 2:30 UK time, Japan, China, Ukraine, Max will be keeping a close eye on Reese McClenaghan, as we all will, the individual Irish competitor who competes on pommel horse and has run Max really closely and beaten him in finals as well in recent years. So a very satisfactory morning indeed for Team GB in the gymnastics, but we'll wait to find out what unfolds this afternoon and then this evening.
And just to explain to people will be joining us all the time, every day during the Olympics, that this works in the sense of this is just about getting through and qualifying today. Scores don't carry over or nothing like that.
Yes, and there's no scores that carry over. This is a one day, one competition, and you qualify. And if you're in the top 8 teams, you qualify for the team final and you start from scratch. Same for the all-around, and then the same for the apparatus finals.
Yeah, top 24 qualify in the all-around, but then only the top 8 qualify in individual apparatus finals. So even though we got some good scores in the different apparatus this morning for the Team GB guys, it may well be overtaken later on in the day by China, Japan, particularly Ukraine. Would you say, Lewis, any other teams to look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say China and Japan will go above us, but yeah,
and individually as well, the different gymnasts.
Correct, yeah. So I think we're in good stead with most of the finals that we predicted, but yeah, I think expect things to change.
Okay, so team final will be on Monday this week, and then the individual apparatus final start a week today. So a bit of a wait for some of these gymnasts, but hopefully, fingers crossed, team final should be pretty much nailed on for Monday.
Good stuff. Thank you both. More from them a little bit later on. By the way, Ellie, have you recovered from the opening ceremony last night?
It's exactly what it should be today. That was a long. I'm blaming you actually, chappers, because we were going to do little kind of updates of the bits and pieces of the highlights of the ceremony, and as soon as Lady Gaga came on, you said, no, I want the whole thing. I want to hear every single note. I want Ali Bruce Ball to commentate on the Minions. I want you, Ellie, to commentate on a bloke in blue body paint, dressed as a meal underneath a
Was that not better than
the low light of my broadcasting career, I think.
That bit of commentary, or just working with me on the opening ceremony?
No, it was an absolute delight working with you and Kelly.
I'm going to get Ellie a honey and lemon.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow we'll do a vocal warm-up, go through our scales.
Yeah, look, I'm sitting next to a man who does panto every year now, chappers, so he knows all about it. As soon as I came in this morning, I've got a bit of a rough voice. He said, oh, you need vocal rest. And I said, yeah, that's not happening, is it?
Are you in panto this year, Lewis?
I am.
Where are you?
I cannot tell you because it hasn't been announced yet. But we've done the photo shoot.
Can you tell us which panto? Is it Jack and the Beanstalk?
I'll tell you, I'm playing a Prince Charming in a panto.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think we're going to run through every panto and have a process of elimination there, chappers. Is it Mother Goose? Yeah.
And to be honest, Ellie, there were gaps in last night's opening ceremony when we were feeling, well, we could have done, best pantos in the year. We could have done with Lewis.
Do his performance. Where were you? Who were you last year?
I was Abanaza in Aladdin, the baddie.
Of course you were.
God, you've got a real range in panto there, Lewis, haven't you?
Oh no, I haven't.
Hey, we got there in the end. Right, we'll talk later. Lewis Smith and Ellen Aldroyd at the gymnastics. We are sitting in our Parisian cafe, or as Bunsey called it last night, our CAF, and the rain continues to fall. Steve Cram and Julien Laurent are with us. This is your 11th Summer Olympics.
Yeah, thanks. And they've all been different. Yeah, and I think it was actually watching that ceremony last night, and one or two people around us, we were sitting in another calf with a few of the folks and a few of the team here. Yeah, and there was a bit, and a few grumblings back home look, it's French, and so it should be. It's Parisian and French and different, and in the way that I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. But that's the point about the Olympics, and if I wound the clock all the way back to going to Moscow in 1980, what did you expect there? So it should be. That's what the Olympics. That's why we take it around the world, is to reflect the country, the city that's hosting it, and it should 100% do that. It shouldn't look like 2012.
No. And I said to you last night, Jules, that it was self-indulgent, but every opening ceremony is self-indulgent, because if you can't be self-indulgent about your city and your country when you're about to host the Olympics, I'm not sure when you can be.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think they wanted that. They wanted that to come across. They wanted a celebration of France and Paris. We said that last night. They wanted a bit of everything, and I think there was everything. I can understand some people not being too keen on Philippe Catherine, the singer who was in that blue. Not sure how Ellie described it last night. That didn't go down well with a lot of people. I can understand that. It was woke at times. But they wanted everybody to feel involved, and we finished by that song from Edith Piaf, sung beautifully by Celine Dion on the Eiffel Tower as well, with the piano, with all the lightning. And at the end, she says, "We unite everybody who love each other," and this is the spirit as well of these Olympic Games.
I mean that ending last night with the torch and with Celine Dion on the Eiffel Tower, it will be.
That's what you'll remember.
That will be the iconic moment.
And I think that's what a strong ending. You want to finish now.
Finish high.
Exactly. Home straight, the glory run, all of that, which is great. I thought it was ambitious, really ambitious. The boats on the river and all of that. And yeah, it rained, and that made it all a bit of a. Some of that probably would have looked a lot better had it not been raining, but nonetheless, it was on an epic scale, and that's what the Olympics are about. So hats off to them. They certainly pulled it off in the sense that it reached a good climax, and after this, I'm actually going to go and have a look and see, and the balloon up. Is it in? I'm not even sure where it is. It's in the Jardin Tuileries. Okay, so
and they've brought it down today, haven't they? Is that because of the weather, or just so people can go and have a look at it?
A bit of both, but I think the weather, the rain especially, and a bit of a wind that was there this morning made it maybe more secure to bring it back down. And then people, you're right, can go down to the Tuileries and have a look at it.
And I mean, the other thing, just the final thing on the opening ceremony, which is Steve has mentioned about their bravery of it, and that was the other thing we mentioned at the end last night. They had so many elements within that opening ceremony where, if something had gone wrong, I mean, if that horse hadn't worked as it were, but all of those you think, blimey, you've taken a risk there, and you've taken a risk there. So they deserve, all of them, who put that together, a glass of wine last night, just for the fact that it went as smoothly as it possibly could have done.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you work 10 years, but really the last 7 years were the ones where they worked every day on this opening ceremony. It's just incredible. And the weather was the only thing really they could not control outside of technology, like you said. That horse and that boat under the horse who went through the whole journey all the way to the end to the Trocadero, if that hadn't worked. But overall, I think
or if Carl Lewis had fallen in, which he looked like a couple of times.
Serena as well.
That was the one bit I was a little bit. France have had some brilliant Olympians, old and more contemporary, but there was a bit of that where I was kind of like, we love Carl, and it's great that he's here, we should put him up Brits and all the rest of it. And Serena was there, and Nadia was there. Great, great Olympians. And I suppose that was a nod to this is the Olympics, it is international.
Yeah.
And I guess it had a nice French ending, but the French athletes at the end, some of them got, Renaud Lavillenie got about 4 seconds, didn't he? Just a little bit more on the French athletes. I think that was the only bit at the end I was a little disappointed.
Maybe, yeah, you're right. I think they wanted something grand, really. Yeah. And I think they got that in the end. And for that, you have to take risk, and for that, you have to be ambitious. And overall, I thought it was a great success.
I've been watching a few things this morning. The great thing, actually, about watching the French television coverage is you get the sports that the French have strength in.
So a lot of judo on the
There's been a lot of judo and a lot of fencing. That's what I've seen a lot of.
It's the two sports that bring us the most medals every 4 years anyway, since the beginning of the games, of the modern games. So the most decorated athletes in French sports history are fencers. Back in 100 years ago, and
so much judo going on that France 2 had to double box it at one stage. So there were like two of them, and it was quite difficult to follow. But what was also great in the stuff that Steve Parry's already said La Défense is the best swimming venue he's ever been to with how that setup is, and that's a temporary venue. But everything that I watched this morning has been full and loud and partisan and raucous. It's been everything you would want from an opening morning. I mean, the fencing was probably calm because it has to be, but judo, volleyball, the dive, it's been immense so far.
I watched the volleyball at 9 a.m.
Germany, Japan,
which was amazing.
What a game!
And the atmosphere within that Port de Versailles hall, which is there, again, it's a temporary one, is where you have the big exhibition through the year here in Paris, and they've made it into small like stadiums for some of the sports. And I thought exactly the same as you, that it was amazing for Japan, Germany in a group stage at the start of the games.
But volleyball's big, isn't it? Because the Frenchmen are the defending Olympic, Olympic champions.
Generation, So team sports in general, handball, basketball, volleyball, and football, obviously, are very popular sports here. But still, for Japan, Germany, it was something.
And that's an aspect of the games that we've never quite, apart from hockey, from a British point of view, the team sports are not. We don't have a volleyball tradition or handball, water polo, or there's lots of the team events here. And when you go back to our kind of success of the British team since lottery funding came in and where the investment went, it was the discussions that we were having back then about should we try to, and particularly once we won 2012, should we try to invest and create a kind of hotbed. We were sending handball players to Denmark for 4 or 5 years to train, to try and get them up to a level that at least would make them okay at the Olympics type thing, and then could that then be taken on? They are costly programs though, because each of them has lots of players in a squad, and actually the team things for us, with the exception of hockey, has been something that we've tended not to really support so much, just because it's not our tradition.
And is that solely on the expense because of how sports are funded out, or is there because it's a culture as well? But it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're playing catch up anyhow, so you need to be funded. But then you probably aren't going to succeed for 2 or 3 Olympic games.
And that's the issue since 2012. The funding's been cut. So we're trying, and we've done brilliantly to maintain the level we hit in 2012, 2016, and 2021, and hopefully here, with less money. So that money's been even more targeted. So the chance to develop those programs with the performance money. Now there's meant to be development money underneath, and it's up to those sports, obviously, if we want to do better in beach volleyball or handball, and basketball. I mean, the GB basketball program was the one, I think, where we really thought we could.
Go at it.
We really thought we could advance to a point where the GB basketball team could be, could certainly come to the Olympic Games and do well, and that hasn't quite materialised, and therefore the funding has not been put in place because we go with the priorities where we think we can win medals.
But which on the one hand you can understand, but on the other hand, if you're looking at where you're bringing new audiences and next generation, so on and so forth, then basketball is one of the ones where you would do that.
But then you have the pressure of the new sports that are coming in, and we have people in some of those new sports who are potential medal contenders, so you have to support that as well. So there's something that it's handed down from the IOC as to which sports are in, so you have to look at them. Is that an opportunity? Is this new sport that's coming in an opportunity for us to win medals? And if it is, it may well mean that someone else is not going to get what is at the end of the day a finite amount of funding.
Does French sport work in a similar way? By the way, I should just say, Germany, Japan in volleyball. Japan are the number 2 team in the world, and Germany beat them in 5 sets, and every set was, bar the last, I think, was within 2 points. It was an incredible anything.
I mean, what's interesting is that the French are starting to
sold, this, that, and the other. I know they had problems with the transport yesterday with the attack on the train lines or whatever. When you saw the crowds this morning as a proud Parisian, did you breathe a sigh of relief that they were full and noisy and
because
off to a good start?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is the thing that you fear the most, is that you don't want people to say, well, nobody showed up in the Olympic Games. And the aim was very much that they wanted these games to be the greatest ever, which everybody says that every 4 years, I understand it. But I think for that, you also need that incredible support from your own people who support the French, but everybody else as well in the Olympic spirit. And also to have people coming from all around the world, and we've seen a lot of tourists and fans from everywhere who are here, especially Americans. We saw a lot of Americans. And to have those crowds there supporting their countries and bringing that special atmosphere.
Makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
It does, but I just while you were talking, I was trying to think back. You began asking me about your 11 summer games, and I can tell you that an awful lot of them, your morning sessions would be empty in the stadia, and even the swimming pool and the rest of it. The venues vary. Some have actually quite big spectator opportunities, and we've become much better, I think, in the Olympic movement have become much better at selling particular sports that people don't see that often, building sometimes temporary or using, and obviously provide a lot of new facilities, places where people go, oh, I'd like to go there. I mean, you think about the swimming pool in Beijing even, I mean, there weren't many Brits flying to Beijing for the Olympics, but nonetheless, the venues themselves become an attraction as well as the sport. Beach volleyball, Horse Guards Parade, for argument's sake, it's things like that, I think, which they obviously become much better at encouraging people that you like this. You might not know much about it, but it's a good experience, and you'll have a great time coming to watch gymnastics or taekwondo or whatever it might be. So I think that's been probably the last 20 years we've seen a real change there.
When for you do you think it changed with crowds being at morning sessions? Was it Sydney?
Sydney was good. Athens wasn't.
Yeah.
They had a lot of problems in Athens. They had some. I remember the swimming pool was right next to the track. It was an outdoor swimming pool, I seem to remember, which was quite good. There was aspects of that. There were some bits of Athens which were spectacular. But if my memory of Athens is not big crowds at some of the events. Sydney was good. China, Beijing, there were people there. I'm sure they'd all bought tickets, but hey.
Well, it's a bit like the Qatar World Cup, isn't it? You're not quite sure where some of the fans came from or where they bussed in or...
But I think generally speaking, the trend has probably been since Sydney. You could actually go, Atlanta it wasn't hugely enjoyable games. That was the first one. I wasn't an athlete, so I saw it as a slightly different perspective.
And I suppose it also depends on the relative wealth of a country as well, doesn't it? Because, I mean, I read the story, people are paying €1,500 for a ticket for the opening ceremony.
But this is Paris as well.
Yes.
When you take it to London and it comes to Paris, even Rio de Janeiro, there are people who go, it would be great to go. I think there's 500,000 Brits have got tickets this morning for these games, which is great. It's accessible. That's Paris.
I mean, well, we always get numbers. There were about 500,000 spots in Munich, apparently, for the opening game of the Euros. Jerry's got a 50 at Edgbaston. Dan.
He has. He's got off 68 balls with 4 fours. He's batting quite sumptuously. He's just 10 runs away now from 12,000 in Test cricket. England 125 for 5. Root unbeaten on 15.
Thank you. Let's go to the tennis here in Paris. Bas Faruqi, who are you watching? What are you watching? Has it stopped raining on the outdoor courts?
It has not, so no play on the outside courts before 2:30 local. But I'm watching Igor Świątek under the roof here on Philippe Chatrier, not going all the way for the Polish world #1 in this second set against Romania's Arena Camelia Begu. She has been broken in the second set, so this one looks like it's going perhaps to a decider. But the woman that Świątek beat on this court to the French Open title in June, she is powering through her second set on long lay. That is Jasmine Paolini. She's 2 games away from victory against another Romania, Anna Bogdan. Of course, after that match, we will then have on long lay Carlos Alcaraz, the Wimbledon champion, who's then going to play doubles on this court with Rafael Nadal later. So a busy afternoon.
Thank you very much, Maz. We've got dressage today. We've got the time trials in the road race. The weather will probably play a part with that as well. I would have thought we've got boxing, we've got canoeing and kayaking, we've got the men's rugby sevens as well. There's no skateboarding today. That's been postponed, hasn't it, because of the weather?
Yeah, and the sun is supposed to come back tomorrow. I know you rolled your eyes earlier when I told you.
This evening, I think.
Even, you see?
Okay. Look, I live in a very warm, sunny city back in the UK. I'm not used to this
weather.
I'm not used to this weather, Jules.
Sorry.
Come on. The rugby sevens later. How important is that for the French? So the men are in the semi-finals. So much attention as one of the faces of the games on Antoine Dupont because he put aside 15-a-side rugby to focus on the sevens. How important is that for the nation later?
That would be huge for them to beat South Africa in the semi-final and get to the final, which is also later tonight at the Stade de France. And talking about atmospheres earlier, the Stade de France has been amazing for this rugby 7 competition so far, not just for the French but for everybody else, except maybe when they put the Argentine anthem. But it has been great, and I think.
But there are reasons.
The rivalry, obviously, and the Football World Cup final in 2022. But for rugby union in France, rugby 15, great, no problem. Rugby league in France, especially in Perpignan, is getting there, good crowds, good coverage, etc. 7 is still very much at the beginning of it. And to go back to the point we were making about some of the sports and fundings, money, exposure, and the status that you want bigger for it, then I think if the sevens win the gold medal, it will take them. And those players who some of them play 15, like Dupont, or about to play 15, it will be something very special.
How many faces of the games do you think you have at a rough count? Obviously you've got Marchand as well.
Marchand for swimming,
and then everybody in judo.
No, I guess Didier Riner, especially after last night, is really the face of judo in France. Wembanyama for basketball, Thierry Henry for football, and Dupont for the rugby, and Marchand for swimming. Those are the most recognizable faces, I think, even for French fans. We said before, French love their sports and they love the Olympic Games, but they are not fanatics of the sport. We would never take 15,000-20,000 fans abroad like New England would do for the cricket, for football, for the rugby, for the Lions, I don't know, anything like that across the world. We don't do that. But the French love their sports, and those people, those faces, and there's a few others that I forgot as well, in the women's side, in the Paralympic side too, that are very recognizable.
What, just winding it out, park the athletics for one moment. When you're at an Olympics, what do you enjoy away from the job side of things? What makes it special for you?
Now, you mean rather than as an athlete? Well, I've forgotten what it was like to be an athlete. So yeah, oddly enough, I was sitting here last year when the first night I came here. I've obviously part of my job here, and your job here, is you come here, and I really look forward to seeing everybody. Bunsey sitting here, he's so keen he arrives an hour early, he's coming up the short of it. I just love that you're meeting all the folks, all the different members of the team, both radio and television, and just knowing we're at the Olympic Games, and
Marcel Marceau was the only thing that wasn't featured in the opening ceremony last night, but he's sat there like him at the moment, so go on.
But my point was, Bunsey, that your boxing learns, I think, from other sports around particularly on the amateur side, about what a high performance system might look like.
Yeah, we needed to create that cycle so that the guys weren't just totally professional. Saying that, we've lost 10 of the 11 from Tokyo 3 years ago, but it really worked. 2008 to 2012 to 2016, those great success years into 220. We carried over Olympics, but more than that, because of the funding that was available, because of that whole high performance ethos, the 17, 18 and 19-year-olds, they were starting to look 5 years in advance, and that had never happened in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. In fact, every medal we ever got, I mean, since the war, since 48, I really mean every medal we ever got has been by fluke. It's not been through a massive program. It's been by absolute fluke. It's one Olympics, one fighter. That was what we did between 68 all the way through to 2004. Just one medal, one medal, one medal. And that was just a fluke, talented fighter. Then suddenly, once that high performance program kicked in, once people started to say, you know what, I can stay amateur, there's a few quid in it, more than that, there's Olympic glory. Changed it completely, revolutionised it. Made us the last 3 or 4 Olympics, either the top team or the second team.
Were individual sports too protective, or had just nobody thought about talking to each other? Was it like, oh, we don't want to share our secret?
So we could have half an hour on this.
Well,
there were some sports that were protective, 100%, you know, and so very, very quickly, UK sport were very smart, and Pete Keane and Liz Nichol and Sue Campbell did a great job of this. When we started to get the real, Athens was a big jump forward, the programme was starting to bed in, and then Beijing was coming down. 2005, of course, suddenly, we're going to have the games in London. So what does that mean? So all of a sudden there was a level of expectation as well. So what else can we do? And the what else can we do was, we need to stop operating in these silos of each sport, because that's what we were doing. And there was a big board up at UK Sport which had a whole host of criteria that each sport was being measured in, and on a traffic light system. You know, greens, it was going well, amber, there might be a few issues, red was, we need to look at this. And I think it was after Athens, or maybe it was after Beijing, we introduced a gold. So instead of green just being, it's all going well, gold, who's doing X really well? And if you are, can you tell why about it? Yeah. And that started a completely different way of thinking and operating. But yes, of course, some sports go, why would we do that? Because again, I'm coming back.
Because they're competing.
And they're competing for funding.
Yes.
So if you win medals in your sport and another sport doesn't win medals, well, that's good for you, right? So trying to create this, folks, we're all in this together, it's all Team GB, you know, we're all going to do well. Of course, when somebody else then sits with you in November and goes, well, I'm really sorry, your sport didn't do as well, so we're going to have to look at it. Of course you then look for any advantage you can get.
Let's talk about the athletics. And I'm going to start with the men's 1500 metres, because it will be one of the highlights of these Olympics. You've got world champion Josh Kerr going head-to-head with the Olympic champion Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Kerr, they both, let's be honest, like to ruffle a few feathers. Kerr includes wearing his blackout glasses amongst his little tricks.
I think that was back in 2022 in Oregon. It was the first time I'd worn the sunglasses, and I chucked them on. I was wearing, I think they were a gold pair, so you couldn't see my eyes. And I was just looking around and seeing what people were doing, and no one knew where I was looking, so people were getting a little bit peeved off at me and just let me know. They were asking, are you looking at me? And I was like, yeah, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but it'll rile some people up. But yeah, it's a fun element. But recently I've been kind of wearing ones where you can see where my eyes are looking, but it's especially on the indoors, it keeps things a bit bright. Because sometimes, in that first year I was wearing some darker pairs that I didn't realize, and racing at night definitely is not a good duo. I think the rivalries for myself and Ingebrigtsen are just mostly based on our own self-confidence. He's obviously put together some amazing performances over the last 4 or 5 years, and maybe he's definitely beaten me a good handful of times, but I think I'm on that level now. It's taken me a bit longer to get here, but I believe that I'm currently the best 1500 meter runner in the world, and I think he believes he's the best 1500 meter runner in the world. So it's a fun balance between two personalities there, and obviously you're adding in some other amazing competition as well. And I think our personalities clash a little bit when it comes to that. And I'm all for it. I'm not going to shy away from some competition. I've worked extremely hard to be in this position, so I'm excited for what's to come the rest of the year.
How would you describe yourself as a person?
That's a great question. I haven't been asked that in a long time. So, you know, for myself, I think, you know, I'm a very driven individual that doesn't really have much of a filter. It's probably the best way to describe me. So, you know, sometimes things come across in certain ways that, you know, make some headlines that I wasn't supposed to. But, you know, for me, I'm just a driven individual that's looking to see if you can get into the top of your sport without breaking any rules.
When you look at the colour of that medal, what do you think about that?
It's a yawn fest now, you see. It's a bad colour, that one. And, you know, again, look, I don't really sit around and look at my medals, but that one needs to be changed. The goal of being an Olympic champion is an addiction. Emotions are going to be extremely high in Paris. You know, the storylines in the media is going to be crazy. I know I can handle the pressure. I'm the best in the world, and I visualise that 1500 metre final. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. There's 12 individuals on that Paris start line, and I'm going to do my best to try and beat every single one of them. If I have to look at any other colour than gold over the next 4 years, it's going to be really frustrating.
Josh Kerr there on the men's 1500 metres. In the next hour, by the way, we've got some live sport for you. We'll be with our 3-day eventing team. We'll also build up to the time trials in the road races, so we'll do that in the next hour as well. Do you like all the talk between Kerr and Ingebrigtsen?
Yeah, you know, it's a bit like going back to our day a little bit, you know. I was kind of piggy in the middle of it.
You were, weren't you?
Yeah. Kono Vet was, you know, and the media love rivalries, of course they do, we all do, because it brings attention, and as long as the people who are doing it, they both handle it really well, they're both capable of playing the game. I think when it's all bit one side and the other person doesn't really want to engage, then it doesn't look so good. But the pair of them are perfectly happy, you know, trashing the other one a little bit. And I like both of them, actually. Jacob gets a lot of people don't like him. He's been brilliant for our sport.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely brilliant for our sport in lots of facets. You know, mind you, the song he's just brought out with his brothers, I'll put that to one side. That's not great for our sport. But so apart from that stuff, you know, and of course we had Jake and Josh come along, two Brits who, you know, who took it to him in a way that others haven't. And that's what happened in someone's career. You know, he became very good, became dominant. Everyone tends to let, and then somebody goes, oh, hang on a minute, you know, and that's where he's at right now. So it's made him go away and be better. I mean, I saw him, you know, following the Diamond Leagues just recently. He's had a tough winter, and I think for a long time we were all thinking Josh is in a great place here. Josh had a great winter, great indoor season, world records, you know, world indoor titles, and outdoors. He's been very smart, Josh, in how he's prepared. Whereas Jacob's had to play catch up, but goodness me, is he caught up, and that's going to be, so it's going to be a great clash.
For a game like this, when you were competing, does what happened in the past, in the last month or 2 months or 3 months, matter, or it doesn't matter so much psychologically, technically, physically?
Yeah, it matters. Athletics. People have been asking me actually, because I've just been at 3 Diamond Leagues, including here in Paris 2 weeks ago. So in Paris, Monaco, London, and we had world records. We had the world's best athletes going bang, bang,
Quite
bang.
a good trio, that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm not surprised you did the last 3.
Good life, that, yeah.
But my point is, you know, for a lot of sports, you don't see people, but for athletics, the last 3-4 weeks, your last 2-3 races, Josh has decided to prepare a bit different marathon runners, the event, but they compete right up until the games, and so it is important. On the other hand, in this particular scenario, at the end of Josh's comments, he said, I know exactly what I'm going to do. The reason why he knows exactly what he's going to do is he knows exactly what Jacob's going to do. And that makes it easier for the others. So the onus is on him, because in those races, in those great races, he's got pacemakers, he's got wave lights, and he can run away from everybody. At the Olympics, at the World Championships, particularly recently, he's not quite been able to do that. So the big question for me is, can he run away from Josh and the others or not? Josh doesn't think so, and so when Josh says, I know what I'm going to do, you're not going to see Josh hit the front with 600 to go, let's put it that way. So it's easier for Josh to have a strategy, because his strategy is determined by what Jacob does. And Jacob doesn't have, really, he'll hate me saying this, but he knows the truth. He really doesn't have another strategy.
So when they're doing all this talk beforehand, and one of them only has one strategy, and they're on that start line, it's put eyeballs on this race, but actually as regards those 2 men on that start line, is it to make any difference to either of them mentally? All the sort of fun and games that we're having in the build-up. Do you think?
I think it does. I mean, you look, the 1500. The joy of the 1500. It's 3.5 minutes. It could be a jog. It might. I won one title where we ran the first 2 laps in such a jog. It was ridiculous. It was all on the last lap. And if you remember, Matt Centrovitz of the USA won the gold medal in 2016 in one of the slowest ever finds. Like 49.50 last lap. We're not going to see that. So when it's that type of race, the nerves get going, so when you're standing on the start line, everybody's like, oh, let's go. Who's good? This is different. They almost know it's kind of going to become a time trial at some point. And so I think it's easier for everybody. Jacob knows what he has to do, but the others know what's going to happen. So I think there's almost less nerves for that than there is when you're just not sure. And in your head, you might have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. How do I react? So the great test, I guess, of any Olympic sport normally is if you were able to go out and just, this is a pure test of who is the best. The trouble is in 1500 meter runners, it wasn't always who's the fastest. This is sort of going to be about that.
Did you, just going back to your day, did you enjoy being picky in the middle? I mean, I know there were races and medals on the line, but you would have had a lot of fun with that, just on the start.
Do you know,
going up to Steve, I went, what Seb said about you last night. Oh, so that's what I do.
When I was in Moscow, which was my first one, that's exactly what it was like. And I was learning. I was 19, and I was, I remember getting in the lift at the village, and everyone had cleared out. The 1500 used to be on the last day, and we because of the boycott and everything, government didn't want us to be there. We'd gone in late, and people had left, so there was hardly any British athletes left. And I hadn't seen so much of Seb, and I'd been hanging around with that learning what from. We got on the lift with Steve and his coach Harry Wilson, who was also the British team coach, and we went down one floor, and the lift doors opened, and in got Seb and his dad. And I was like, oh, this is good. And do you remember the Waltons? The end of the Waltons, which was a TV show on BBC Two all those years ago, and the lights were going on in there. Good night, John Boyd. Good night, Gary Lou. Good night. So what happened was, it was all. I said hello to Seb's dad. I had said hello to Seb. I said hello to Harry. Said hello. Everyone went hello, except those two. They never said a word to each other. And it was, you often did feel. Then you get to the stadium and you're like, Seb goes off over that end of the field and Steve goes off, and I was like, well, who should I go and sit with? I'm the third British guy. I don't know. I'll go and sit in the middle somewhere. I did learn a lot, and to be honest, what you do is you find your way, because you learn to deal with the media in particular is tough. Novette did it a completely different way to Seb, and what you do is you kind of go, do you want to be like Seb? Do you want to be? You don't. You end up going, this is how I'm going to handle it. So I had good teachers, but
been brilliant to have you for an hour. Where are you going this afternoon?
I'm going to go and see if Andrew Costa survived the opening ceremony, and have a coffee with him, and then I'm going to go and watch the cycling time trial.
Good stuff.
Maybe some basketball later.
That's brilliant. All right, have a good day,
Thank
Steve.
you very much.
Jules, what's your plan?
My plan is the rugby. I'm staying for a little bit more.
How are you? Okay, no, that's fine.
And then
you can tell me later then. Sorry. All right. Yeah, go on. No, so you're going to the rugby 7?
Yeah, rugby 7. Yeah, great. I won't make the semi-final, but if the French qualify for the final, I'll be there.
Okay, great. So Jules is staying with us, which we've all just found out, which is great. Thank you, Steve. Steve Bunce will join us as well in a little while. Let's get back to the cricket. Are you at lunch, Dan Norcross?
We are. Lunch has just started. 157 for 5. England, that represents a massive recovery. They were 54 for 5 after 2 early wickets inside the first, 23 balls of the morning. First, Ollie Pope dragging one on off Shamar Joseph, and then Harry Brook hitting a thin edge through to the keeper. He went for 2, Pope made 10, and 54 for 5. England with all sorts of bother, still 228 runs behind the West Indies, but the partnership between Root and Stokes now yielded 103 runs. Root has 58 at lunch, Stokes 48. Mark Ramprakash alongside me. May look back on that session and say that the key moment was when Jayden Seals, he had Root LBW, it wasn't given by the umpire, and West Indies didn't revert it. It was shown to be hitting.
Yeah, I mean, of course, up here in the commentary box, you get a very good view of it. I think perhaps if Seals had been a more senior bowler, or maybe he needed a bit of Stuart Broad in him to push and be confident actually. And when he's out there, you feel England, everything looks calm, and England looking forward. Of course, Pope and Brooke got out to some iffy shots, really, it has to be said. The ball wasn't really there to hit, with Pope chopping on and Brooke playing a sort of an airy drive. But Stokes, the captain, has come in and by his standards has looked pretty composed. You know, he's shown some good defence. Interesting battle with Moti, the left arm spinner, finding some turn from outside. The left-handers off stump, and Ben Stokes, you know, feeling for a couple and then hoiking him into the Hollis stand for 6. So that will be a good battle, I think, after lunch.
He's got 48 off 62. This isn't like crash bang wallop Bazball, but we're going to point out 119 runs in 25 overs. I mean, England is still going on at a very positive leg.
And I think this is the whole thing with batting positively. You know, for 150 years, good players have come out and played Test cricket and batted positively. But it's about what ball to hit and what ball to block. Joe Root is a class act, and he was #1 in the world before Bazball. And what he does really well is play the ball late. He knocks it into gaps. He hits the ball along the ground most of the time, and he makes his runs. So look, each player's got to go out there and play to their strengths. But I think England will look back at, well, I think they should look back at some of the dismissals in this innings and feel if the batters are being honest with themselves, the ball was not there to play an attacking shot.
Came beautifully poised at lunch, 157 for 5. England still 125 runs behind, and Root just 2 runs away from 12,000 in Test cricket. But at lunch, 157 for 5, England.
Thank you very much, both of you. Back to the tennis, Maz.
And Poland's world #1 Igor Świątek, who remember was broken in the second set of this first round match here on Philippe Chatrier. She's power back to beat Arina Camelia Begu of Romania in straight sets. 6-2, 7-5. Italy's Jasmine Paolini knocking out another Romanian player over on long lay. She's beaten Anna Bogdan in straight sets. Next up on both show courts then, we switch to the men's singles here on Chatrier. Shortly we're going to see Novak Djokovic chasing the one title that's eluded him in his career. Carlos Alcaraz will get his singles campaign underway shortly over on long lay before he then plays in the doubles for Spain here in the evening session alongside Rafa Nadal. But the 4 Brits due to play in the singles draw today continue to wait because of the poor weather. No play now on the outside courts before 3 p.m. local time.
Are the crowds good on the 2 show courts?
Yeah, really good. I'm sorry, I've got half my cans on and half off because the compares is doing very French things on the court here, talking about accordions and all kinds of things, so it's a bit difficult to hear you. But no, the crowds have been really good, and obviously, you know, the draw of Igor Świątek looking so comfortable, she always does, and it is a real fan favourite here anyway, so I think it was pretty easy sell really. But it has been pretty well attended, and obviously people going out now, but I'm sure they'll all come back in to see Novak Djokovic shortly.
Okay, enjoy your compare. I told you, Jules before, there are a lot of French people doing French things at this French Olympics. It's very annoying.
Very annoying.
You know? Your countries last night at the opening ceremony coming in order of how they're said in French. I mean, what's the world coming to?
We just have 2 weeks where we can be so French, super French.
Right, it's 5 Live. We're at the Olympics opening day here in Paris. Let's get the latest news. Here's Dina Camp.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live. Listen on BBC Sounds.
And in the rest of today's news, the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says at least 30 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in an Israeli strike on a school housing displaced Palestinians. Israel's military says the target was a Hamas command and control center inside the building.
Saturday afternoon, 8 minutes past 2 here in the French capital. The rain continues to fall, but if you're just joining us, Britain have their first medal of the game, so the first time since Athens in 2004 that Britain have taken a medal on the opening day, and it came in the women's synchro 3-metre springboard. Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Jensen winning that one. There may be more medal opportunities later in the time trial, in the road race. We will bring you those, both the men's and the women's, and that there are 91 competitors in both the men's and the women's. It's exactly the same course, it's exactly the same distance. That's the first time, Julian Leroy's nodding next to me, the first time that's ever happened, and that is absolute equality on it. Number of competitors, length, course, everything's the same.
Yeah, everything is the same. They really wanted that to happen here, and we talked a lot about parity yesterday during the opening ceremony too. The first time where you've got full parity between the men and women's athletes in these games.
We've had, also today, by the way, I was just going to finish what's coming out, we've got 3-day eventing. It's the dressage stage, so we'll go to Sonia McLaughlin in Versailles very shortly to talk about that. We've got some boxing later, we've got canoeing and kayaking. We'll look ahead to the men's rugby sevens, which is at the semi-final stage. Overall today, 14 gold medals are up for grabs, and later on in the pool we have that women's 400-metre free final, which is set to be one of the races of the games, if not the race of the games, between Ledecky and Titmus and McIntosh, who between them have the fastest 10 times in the world at that distance. It feels those games where, Steve Bunce, we used to wait for ages for a first medal from a British perspective seemed long gone.
We talked about that. In fact, I was in this studio cafe yesterday, and we talked about how the game started. The event started on Wednesday. Really serious events on Thursday. The Fijians and the French in the sevens, in front of 80,000. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's 48 hours before, and you're absolutely right, Mark. Over a 16-day period, there were a couple of things you're looking forward to. You just spoke there about the 1,500 metres to Crammy. I mean, that's a must-see. And then you're talking here about some of the women's swimming and some of the other races there. And no doubt tomorrow we'll talk about another race that's going to be the highlight of the Olympics. But to have races like that 12 hours after the first bell, so to speak, 12 hours after the first gun, is ridiculous, Shepherds. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I love swimming. One of the things I love about swimming, because I was briefly, as you know, the Observer swimming correspondent.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yeah.
There's several things I've been in my time. And one thing I love about it is when you go to the swimming at the Olympics, it's one of the few places where they still deliver paper. You get those unbelievable stats. So that's how you've got that stat about the 3 women have got the 10 fastest times in the world. And they are updating it daily. It's absolutely fantastic.
The big race tomorrow will be the men's 100-metre breaststroke, which will be hopefully PT. He's through to the semi-finals in that. Yeah, I always think, can you imagine the Observer Sport department having that meeting and thinking who would be best to be swimming for it?
Who's got his hand up? Betsy.
Me sir.
Just one more on the opening ceremony. We've done a lot with Jules on the opening ceremony, but we were talking about it, and you got really emotional during the Celine Dion rendition of an
It was Johnny Hallyday before as well.
Yeah, listen,
your Johnny Hallyday moment was good.
The Johnny Hallyday stuff was great. So we're having a good laugh with Johnny Hallyday. That's absolutely perfectly fine. Okay, but something happened with the Celine Dion. Yeah, sorry, I always say in my house, she was always my kids growing up silly on Dillion. So I think I only said it once on air last night, and I've said it this morning, which is a little bit remiss of me. It's not a slight. It's just a nickname that worked in my house. Silly on Dillion. Hey, who knows? You see, I mean, I got asked this morning in a message from my daughter, did you see Silly on Dillion last night? And of course I did, and it's neither here nor there. So I was looking at the PF, and I've been talking about. I've got some PF on my phone, and I love Edith Piaf. She's terrific. She's fun, and her songs last about 1 minute and 7 seconds. It's literally you've got 60, and it lasts 72 minutes. You know the kind of thing. But I love the songs, and I knew the song, but I didn't know much about the song, but I knew it, and I knew it had some real meaning. And then I remembered I'd written about it 10 years ago, and I'll tell you why I'd written about it. It's because she wrote it in honor of the man she fell madly in love with the previous year. She fell in love with Marcel Cerdan, who at the time was the French middle away, but he was about to become the world champion. He wins the world title, and in 1949, when they were madly in love, he ends up losing the world title to Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull, and he's going to go and have a rematch with LaMotta, but he's got to see Piaf, so he flies back from New York, has a pit stop in the Azores, and then he crashes and dies in a plane. She writes the song, and she never fully recovers. That's documented. And then the words, don't get me started, James. The words are absolutely unbelievable. And my French, I don't speak French. You know, I don't speak French. I don't even do accents. And I knew it. And then I got sent a reminder this morning by someone on Twitter, and I went, oh yeah, so I did. And then I went back and, oh, well, I tell you, I struggled to read it. So that's why I was in such a state in the room, which is why you had to lean across and pat my leg after I'd done 5 hours on air. Because the song, if you're a boxing person, have a little look, Edith Piaf, Marshall Sedan, have a look at that song, and if you can read that, the translated lyrics, and not do that,
So you've got the power of the song, the power of the lyrics, and then the power of actually of everything that Celine Dion has been through as well. Yes. But then in this haunting, I mean, it was hauntingly set, wasn't it? You know, with her one light on the Eiffel Tower, but also then the balloon and the torch. I mean, it was goosebumps.
Those 5 minutes really roughly between Perec and Rina lighting up the cauldron, and then Celine Dion was just because we knew she would sing. We kind of knew it was going to be L'Hymne à l'amour because it's one of the most famous French songs, and it's Piaf who was born here and lived all her life here, plus the Cerdan thing, everything. But we didn't know when she would sing it, where she would sing it, how, all of that. And she's the most non-French singer, you know, French really. And for her, after 4 years without singing, to be there on the first floor of the Eiffel Tower with the piano and the lightning show, it was just...
They were sort of the first celebrity couple.
They were, Cerdan and Piaf, of course. They were like the, I don't know, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, if you want, of their time in the late 40s.
They had tabloid journalists following them around on planes, so if they went somewhere, the tabloid journalists were there. He'd have 50, 60 people outside his gym in New York or outside his gym on the outskirts of Paris when he was training. This is stuff that, you know, that's absolute Beckham and Spice Girl stuff. Absolutely, chaps.
There are so many things in that 5 or 6 minutes, but the majority of people will take silly old dilly on out of that. 5 Live Sport, 1:15 in the afternoon in the UK, 2:15 here in France. Steve Buss and Julien Laurent with us. Let's go to Versailles. Nicola Wilson, silver medalist in team eventing at London 2012, joins us. We're in the middle of the dressage at the moment, aren't we, as part of the eventing? For people who haven't been listening earlier, Nicola, just explain how this all comes together and works.
Today we've got the first phase, the dressage phase of the competition. As has been said before, this 3-day eventing is a little bit like triathlon for horses, and we're halfway through the second rotation of the teams. So the first riders within the teams of 3 have already done their dressage, and as you said, we've got Laura Collett. She is the second rider out for Britain. Tom McEwen leading on JL Dublin. So Britain's starting fantastically well, and Laura Collett certainly got all of her eyes on her. She and this combination horse and rider, London 52, we're at Tokyo where they won team gold, so you know, high expectations for her.
So they have 3 in a team, don't they? And how do they make their own decisions about who leads them off? Is it done via a draw? Because Tom McEwen had a good game since he in Tokyo. You mentioned the team gold, but he got an individual silver as well. So if they've basically gone, right, we'll lead you off because of previous success.
It's looking at the team as a whole and see. Dressage and develop confidence, have confidence within the team, really stamp down a solid performance, which Tom has done in bucket loads, and before then the other 2 riders come. And the same with the cross country tomorrow. They're wanting a solid, confident cross country round, clear inside the time to really set the tone. back with information about how the course is riding and any little hidden gems that that they need to be aware of, really.
And just one more before we move on to Laura Collett and talk about her. Just one more on Tom McHugh, who is on a different horse here to the one that he was on in Tokyo.
Yes, he is. He was riding today to Takasa in the at Tokyo, where he won Team Gold and individual silver, as you said. But here he's riding a horse called JL Dublin, who actually is a horse that I got as a 4-year-old and produced through the levels. I trained him for 7 years, and he was individual and Team Gold at the European Championships a couple of years. But since I had an awful fall and been forced to retire, Tom has fantastically and successfully taken over the ride of JL Dublin and is realising the dreams of him and his team of getting to the Paris Olympics, and it's really exciting.
When you get a horse at 4, do you know immediately that it's going to be able to deliver for you? What I mean, obviously you then have to put the work in with it, but what are you looking for in a 4-year-old horse that thinks this could be an eventing horse?
Well, it's a partnership, it's a team. So the horse and rider really need to build on that bond, that trust, that harmony and partnership. And as a 4-year-old, Dublin had ability. He had so much ability, but they've also got to be trainable and have that mentality. He's always been a showman. He'd get out of bed or in his stable, or get out of bed on a morning and go, oh, there isn't a camera. Where are the public? And then he would be like, I can't really be bothered. And
I've worked with a few people like that. I tell you, Nicola, I could give you a few football pundits I know like that.
And then you'd be like, oh, my adoring public, fantastic. And instead of getting too tense about it, he's like, right, I'm going to knuckle down and show you what I'm made of, which is such a lovely, lovely quality. You're seeing a lot of horses today in the dressage get that little bit tense, whereas you saw Dublin really grow into himself and go, well, look at me, guys. He's a show-off, basically. But he always had the ability. Obviously, he knew nothing as a 4-year-old, and he has to go like children through their education. They have got to go through their years
alongside Nicola, silver medalist at London 2012, and she's saying when she did her dressage test for the eventing, literally almost a hurricane blew through. She said her top hat blew off, the top of the judges box blew off, and yet they didn't put a stop to the event, so she literally had to carry on, come what may, in the most extreme conditions. And you know, just shows how well these horses are schooled, because that combination alongside Nicola and others went on to take the silver medal.
Nicola, I mean, we've done this many times, so you know there are some stupid questions coming. But, so what are you saying to the horse when its ear flicks back and stuff and is listening to you? What kind of instructions do you say?
So over years, you sort of put your buttons in. It's a little bit like your gears or your controls, and you're through training and using the correct scales of training, that it's a very common that every horse and rider understands on how to ask the horses and train the horses to do these movements. And it's just that sinking in when two individuals, horse and rider, become one, and they're really working together in harmony. So although no words come out of the rider's mouth or the horse, you know, it's just that that constant feel and sense between horse and rider, and the ears is where you sort of generally do see it. You know, that little bit of communication. Ah, yes, I know what you want. That's great, brilliant. Ears pricked, concentrating, and looking where they're going. It's lovely.
And just on back to those conditions, if the sand gets wetter and heavier, that doesn't affect things.
No, the surface here is fantastic. Crikey, it's top class, beautiful, and it should ride the same for everybody, for the dressage and the show jumping. You know, if it does get very dry, they will water it in between when they get a break if they need to keep it very consistent. But these are outstanding, amazing conditions for the horses, and the top horses won't notice the weather. Some may well notice the brollies or the cheering or the stamping of the crowd, you know, with their feet. Those kind of things can upset them. But here we have Laura Culloch coming into the arena, and I have to say my tummy's starting to feel a little bit nervous, Sonia.
Well,
yeah,
do the two of you take it away then? If she's come into the arena, away you go.
She's got a lovely smile on her face. They look a picture of elegance.
And I'm looking at this rectangular arena, which is all the way around. It's 20 metres by 60. It has a small picket fence at sort of ankle level all the way around, and then we have these very familiar dressage markers away to my right. That's A, where the horse and rider will enter. The opposite end, effectively going straight up the centre line, is a marker C, right in front of the three judges. Three judges sitting at C look like they are kind of in beach huts, and they've got the perfect view of this dressage test. And Laura Collette, who was part of the gold medal winning team at Tokyo 2020, finished 9th as an individual, has just cantered down the centre line and has now just gone into a sitting trot as she heads towards C, which is that marker right in front of the judges, and she turns right, still here at sitting trot, and as she takes a letter marker M, as she's now doing an extended canter. Extended trot, excuse me, straight across the arena. Just give us your early impressions of how Laura is looking.
Well, the judges are looking at the overall impression. They're looking at the suppleness, the accuracy of that entry in canter and the transition forward to trot, and continuing down the centre line, as you said, Sonia, to see was so straight, and a beautiful soft bend through the corner and into such an elegant extended trot. And she, at the moment, looking at the split scores, you know, she's just slightly popping her nose ahead of Tom McEwen.
She's at C, where we talked about Tom McEwen's test, where they do that rein back, which is when the horse just takes a few strides backwards, not very many. What did you make of that?
Yes, they were very accurate in their halt as she moved forward into the half pass, and that is a forward movement, but the horses are going sideways and forward and having a crossing of their legs. And again, the judge looking for the softness, the suppleness, the balance and the engagement, and just seeing every movement flowing from one to the other. He just looks so happy and confident in his work.
And he's now just doing a relaxed walk straight across the diagonal. This is London 52, who she also rode in Tokyo. Remember, she said she made mistakes with this horse ahead of the Tokyo game. She tried to wrap him in cotton wool, wasn't a good idea, so that when he came out to compete in Tokyo, he basically was too hot, came out of like a cannon, shot out of a cannon, and she's now built this horse up for these games in a very different fashion to try and get the best out of him. He's a bay gelding. He looks like that something conker colour that you get in the autumn, as she asks at sea just to go into the canter, and now she's doing the flying changes, Nicola, which always look impressive. Just explain to people what a flying change is as she does that across the diagonal in this arena.
Yeah, a flying change is a horse going from one canter lead to the other canter lead without a transition, say through to trot or to walk. And because it's on the diagonal line, it's very clear to the judges whether the horse stays straight. They're wanting to make sure that the horse doesn't swing his quarter and is very correct. They're wanting to see a nice lift through those flying changes and an expression, but also without breaking the rhythm. And Laura's absolutely nailed all 4 of those changes, all in different places, but they really were lovely.
And then we just had an extended canter down the long line and farthest away from me as I'm looking at it, and she's now come round. Laura Collette punches the air. London 52 has got his ears pricked, and she looks highly delighted with that test. Do you think she has every right to be delighted, Nicola?
Absolutely. From the moment he came into the arena, he oozed confidence, he oozed quality, and their level of training and delivering of the test was just magic. Absolutely superb. She deserves the brilliant mark that she's clearly going to get. And a fantastic number 2 in the team GB. Well done.
Yeah, so GB, and there she goes. And Tom McEwen is somebody sitting somewhere going, oh, darn you, Laura Collette, because he's been leading since he was the 9th horse into the arena and has set the standard. And old Laura Collette, his teammate, has come along and gone, oh, anything you can do, I can do better. She has gone into the lead, and I cannot put into words the score that Laura Collette has just nailed here at the very, very highest mark, 17.50. We are talking nearly dressage perfection, Nicola.
Absolutely, and actually this horse is being trained to perfection, and that test was superb, absolutely fabulous. She's dreamt of this, but being able to dream it and know that you can do it, and then to be able to deliver it under these circumstances and this pressure is something else. Absolutely fabulous.
And you know what that then means, Mark? Chappers, it means that as you look at the scoreboard, it's 2 Union flags in first and second place for the British eventers after they've both done rounds of dressage for Tom McEwen and Laura Collette.
But that's the good thing, isn't it, Nicola? That obviously that works from a team perspective, but they're all going to push each other.
Absolutely. All 3 of the British riders could be on that podium. They are all good enough and have got good enough form to be not only at the top of the podium for the team goal, but also all 3 individual slots as well. But what also comes with that sort of almost expectation is that pressure of them having to deliver, and they have to try and take themselves away from what they know they can do, of the expectation that we all have on them, and just imagine that this is just another competition that they need to do so well in, and put into practice everything they've been training on for years, and it's just so exciting.
Chappers, can I just put something into context here? Only 2 British riders in the history of the Olympics have ever won the individual gold, and that was the very well Richard Meade way back in 1972 in Munich, and then Leslie Law in Athens in 2004. And in a sport where men and women compete on equal terms, no woman for Britain has ever won the individual gold medal in the eventing. And we have in Laura Collette and Ros Cantor, we haven't actually seen yet, she goes last in the team, is currently the world number 1. We have a realistic chance of one of the women of this team making history.
And Tanya also making also making history. I think that was an Olympic record dressage mark as well. Wow.
And the final thing is Ross Cantor has a point to prove because she was travelling reserve, doesn't she? But she herself has said that. It was painful a bit, was Tokyo, because she was there but not there, if you see what I mean.
But does that not make you stronger? It was so hard for her, but she was there in a very different role, as Yas is doing now, and it's just yes, she's had a few years to work on her performance and her training, and she certainly comes here full of confidence and strength, and she knows what she needs to do, and she's such an amazing competitor, so level-headed, so focused, and leaves no stone left unturned in her training and preparation for any of these top-level competitions that she's doing, and her horses.
So we'll be back with you for Ross Cantor. What time's that, Sonia, roughly?
Ross Cantor, no, it's 17:21 French time, so yeah,
French
20 past
time,
4. 20 past 4 with you guys.
Okay, thank you both, Sonia McLaughlin and Nicola as well, and we will be back for the next event with Ros, as I say, 20 past 5 French time, 20 past 4 UK time with Sonia and Nicola. Jules, thank you very much for being with us. So off to the Stade de France now?
Yes, tonight, hopefully, fingers crossed, they make it to the final.
Okay. We will let you go. We will talk to you soon. Julien Laurent, Steve Bunce staying with us, and the road racing is underway. We've got the time trials today, both men and women. Jonathan Overend and Hayley Simmons, British racing cyclists across this. Do you want to set the scene for us, Jonathan? Because it is wet and miserable out there.
It's really wet. Well, I left the diving centre up in Saint-Denis, Mark. Long walk to the metro, joined the masses who were heading out the other way to the Stade de France, and then into the city centre. And actually, it wasn't too bad out there in Saint-Denis, but getting into the city centre, absolutely hosing it down. And just like at the opening ceremony last night, very, very difficult conditions. Now, of course, for these cyclists, it makes it all the more hazardous because this is a competition on the Paris roads. It's a really unique route. It's 32.4 kilometres, and the time trial is against the clock. So everyone goes off at 90-second intervals. We've just started the women's time trial, and it's Anna Henderson for Great Britain who we'll be seeing in a little bit. But really hazardous conditions. These, of course, are super high-spec bikes with very narrow wheels and tyres. So they're going to be sliding around those pedestrian crossings, and a lot of caution needed on the corners, I would say, Mark, today.
Hayley, it gives a bit like certain things in the opening ceremony last night, it gives the impression of actually cycling on an ice rink here to a certain extent when you look at how much water there is on the tarmac.
Yeah, it's really difficult conditions today. I think actually one thing that's good is that all of the riders are going to face the same conditions. It's not like it started absolutely throwing it down partway through, and so some riders are going to get a dry run and some are going to get a soaking wet run. But it gives something else to think about. Pressure in the tyres is going to be a big thing, and making sure that you're not running too high a pressure, because if you do, you could just completely slide out on some of these white lines.
And then what does it do to you, sort of your mentality as well? Does it immediately put caution into your brain? I mean, I've seen a few riders come down the ramp here and approach that first corner, and with this very, very amateur eye, there's a sense of caution about them.
Yeah, so that first kind of almost the first turn, you've got the two pedestrian crossings, and the white paint does get particularly slippy, and obviously you really don't want to be crashing on those early corners. But I think we're going to see different approaches depending on the riders and their focuses in these games, because some of these riders are also going to be doing the track cycling disciplines or the road race, and I think riders who maybe their sole focus is this time trial, and that's realistically where their medal chances are, we might see them taking more risks and throwing a bit more caution to the wind than maybe riders who've got other target races coming up later in the games.
So is that quite a big thing to avoid the road markings? Because now, since you mentioned that, I'm now watching it, I'm thinking, God, there are lots of pedestrian crossings.
Yeah, you know what, you don't notice, this is something I noticed when I race in the UK versus maybe some other countries, you never realise how many traffic islands and things like that and cat's eyes we have in the UK until you race on British roads and think about having to try and avoid them.
just on the course, and Jonathan, you may have seen this as well. I mean, I was reading some quotes from Remco Evenepoel, who is the 2022 World Road Race champion, and he's talked about this being a really fast course, but at the same time, the first 5 kilometres and the last 5 kilometres are not great because of potholes.
So that's Boulevard Saint-Germain. So basically, there's this straight from the start of the race, which is at Les Invalides, right in the middle of the centre, by Pont Alexandre III, which is the main showpiece bridge over the River Seine, and then they go south of the river through the left bank, parallel with the river, basically, Hayley, on a 5-kilometre straight. Now, later on the course, it loops around the Bois de Vincennes out to the east of the city, but then it comes back down that same straight. So they'll be doing it twice in both directions. And I think the hope was that it would be a dry day, it would be a thrilling, fast sprint finish to the end, which of course it still will be, but with hazards.
Yeah, it's going to be spectacular. I think, Mark, you actually maybe you changed some of Remco's choice words there, but yeah, he was a little bit critical of some of the road surface, and we were chatting about this earlier. Actually, one of the hazards of it being wet and potholey is that some of the cracks, some of the potholes could fill with water and actually mean that riders might not see them, or certainly see them too late in order to be able to safely avoid them. And hitting a pothole at the kind of speeds these riders will be going, you know, they're going to potentially suffer flat tyres or worse. And you know, we really don't want to see a race determined by a mechanical issue. So that's something that hopefully won't occur, but is a possibility.
And this is why we're literally the dream team for this race, Hayley, because you've won medals, you've won time trials. Last time I was on a bike, I went into a pothole and I haven't had the time to fix my bike since.
Yeah,
dream team.
All bases covered.
Yeah, we know everything. We can talk about the mechanical problems and the racing issues. That's yeah, we've got it all.
Set up Anna Henderson for us then, Jonathan.
Commonwealth silver medalist from 2 years ago, silver at the European Road Championships last year, first in the National Road Championships this year, and fourth in the Worlds last summer. So that in itself tells you that she's absolutely in the conversation for the medals here. Obviously a lot of things have to go right, Hayley, for Anna Henderson to get onto that podium, not least a close eye on her main rivals. But what do you think? Is it possible that she could get a medal today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe prior to the National Championships in June, there were some questions over how Anna would be, because she's actually suffered 2 broken collarbones this year. But, you know, she came back, she dominated British Nationals and really showed that, you know, she's in excellent time trialling form. So she's one of a group of riders in this female race that I think could be battling for potentially a bronze medal, or you know, the kind of 4th, 5th, 6th places. I kind of have my own view on who we might see as the top 2 or 3, but you know, anything can happen in these races, and Anna definitely has the shape, definitely has the time trialling ability to be right there in the medals.
Go on, share that view then.
So I think Taylor Knibb, the American who's currently racing, her compatriot Chloe Dygert. I think Chloe Dygert, she's my favourite to win, personally. The other people that I think are most likely to be up there in the top 3 medal positions are Ellen van Dijk and Grace Brown. Ellen van Dijk's actually going off a little bit earlier in the field. She didn't race at the last Olympics, and she was on maternity leave last year, so we've not seen her in a major international time trial recently, but you know, she's one of the best. She's been a 3-time world champion, so you definitely can't count her out. And yeah, Grace Brown, the Australian, who's second to last off. Those are my kind of top 3, I would say. But you know, if one of them had a slight issue, anything that slowed them down, there are quite a few other women who will be right on their heels and you know, ready to take their place.
Just on the draw, is it a completely random draw how they go out, and also is there a prime spot in this? I mean, the later you go, is that better, because do you know what you have to be to that stage? Can people communicate with you on the way?
Yeah, so you have the inner time trial, normally you can get information from team cars, so you get timing information. You might also have helpers out on the road in certain parts of the course with timing boards. You see that a lot in road racing, so you can get information. I would actually say that normally in a time trial, not today so much because we're not going to see the changing weather conditions, but the benefits of starting at different times of day could actually be due to the weather. You know, the wind might change, the direction, the intensity of the wind, and rain. You know, I mentioned before that luckily all of the riders today look like they're going to get the same very wet roads, but you know, if it started raining halfway through a race, then the riders in the early part of the field could have been taking corners full gas, and later on, you know, they're going to have to be more cautious. So you know, there are definitely sometimes benefits, but today, you know, I think all the riders should face similar conditions, and maybe it doesn't matter so much where they're starting.
Hayley, Jonathan, for the time being, thank you very much. So we'll follow Anna Henderson in the women's time trial later on. Josh Tarling goes in the men's time trial. The men's time trial gets underway at 25 to 4 UK time until 5 past 5. So that's when the men's gets underway. The women's should finish by around 10 past 3. Let's just go to the cricket. Do Root and Stokes continue to build this partnership, Dan?
They do, and 2 landmarks as well. Stokes has moved to his 50 in the first over after lunch. He has 53, pulled a ball for 4, and the West Indies have gone to a short ball attack. And they did the same thing to Joe Root, and he pulled his ball for 4. They've got a strange field with 3 men out on the leg side, and we got that boundary. Root moved past 12,000 runs in Test cricket, became only the 2nd Englishman to do it after Sir Alistair Cook. England 167 for 5. We've just had 7 balls since lunch.
Masfariki has now moved on from watching the French compare to Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, big cheers. Lots of Serbian noise and flags now inside Chateauray here. Novak Djokovic getting his Olympic campaign underway pretty impressively. He's just taken the first set against Australia's Matthew Ebden, 6-love. The TV feed here, though, showing us the players before they came out on court, and he was doing a big show and a big gesture of doing stretches of that right knee, which has still got the grey strapping on, but he was doing some sideways jogging thing on a treadmill, which was really slightly strange and seemed to confuse Matthew Ebden quite a lot, judging by his face. But yeah, he's powering through this match. Play continuing as well over on Long Long, where Carlos Alcaraz of Spain is going well against Hadi Habib of Lebanon. He is 6, well, he's just taken the first set there as well, 6-3 taking that, the Spaniard. No Brits though featuring yet, because this rain delay is meaning now no play here at Roland Garros on the outside courts before 4:15 local time.
Thank you, Maz. Here on 5 Live, throughout the course of the Olympics, we can take you wherever the story is, wherever the Team GB medals may be, whatever the most exciting sport is. We can go anywhere over the next couple of weeks. You can also watch certain sports on BBC One and on the iPlayer as well, and you can follow everything with the live text on the BBC Sport website. Let's talk boxing with Steve Bunce. Most of Team GB's fighters have got really difficult contests after the draws were made earlier this week. Before we hear from Bunce, he spoke to coach Dave Alloway earlier about the draws.
Obviously it's always going to be tough, you know, but there is a mixed bag there, but they're all prepared for it. They know what was coming because of the seeds were already announced beforehand, so yeah, it is what it is.
And there are 1 or 2 people that get a sort of golden ticket to come here. And why is it, Dave, we never ever get one of those? Why is it we get world champions? Well, I think we've got 3 or 4 world champions.
I just think it's the luck of the draw, Steve. No matter what they do with technology, it's just a draw. That's the way it is. That's the way it happens.
When you left the box this afternoon, what was their mood like as they were going into draw? Were they sitting there fingers crossed? Are they just like, it doesn't matter who it is, I want to get in the ring anyway?
Nah, they just want to get in the ring, Steve. They're ready to go now. They've had great preparation. We've been here a little while now. They've bedded in. They're enjoying the experience. They just want to box.
And when you're sitting there listening to it, Dave, you know all the boxers, you've been in the corners with them. Are you hearing the opponents? Are there any of those strike some fear into you? Any of those go, I don't want to get too confident, but I like that one, I fancy that one?
Not really, because in this game anything can happen. You know, that's the beauty of it. You know, you think you might have just a slightly easier draw, and all of a sudden it can be your hardest fight.
So when you go back and tell them, Dave, whose reaction will you be able to gauge? Like, will Delicious tell them?
They all react differently, but they're all ultra professional now, and even the inexperienced ones just love being here, and they want to perform, and they're ready to, and they'll go out and do it when they have to.
Are you at that point now, Dave? It's a 3-year cycle. I know it's been a year short, where you can't wait for it to start. You as a coach, all those hours, all those weeks, all those months, all those trips, all those nights away from home, you can't wait for it to start.
Yeah, I've been very lucky, Steve, to have done this in my 4th Olympics with like Lee Pullen and a few other coaches, and Gary Howe and Rob and everybody that works behind the teams have been here before. But yeah, we just want to get them going, because that's what we do, get them going.
Dave Alloway, coach with Steve Boggs. You mentioned Delicious there. Let's start with Delicious Ori, shall we? Who goes in the super heavyweight, and he's up against a 2021 world silver medalist.
As I say, chappers, and I'm not kidding, this is a really hard draw. I mean, I'm a decent veteran of Olympic draws, and this is without doubt the hardest set of fights I've ever known. But saying that, they're a unique, tight little unit, this team, and I think that's really important. You talked earlier on to Crammy and to Jules when he was here about British teams. But the boxing, I would throw into you, is a team. It's always worked as a team. I really mean it. It's a close team. It's important. Delicious Ori, all Delicious has got to do, it sounds like a ridiculous start, is perform as well as he possibly can. Okay, 4 of the 6 have to perform out of their skin just to get through the first stage. Delicious has just got to do what Delicious can do, because he's a big, extremely talented man. There's been an attempt over the last couple of years, because Delicious has been put forward for everything I've been doing. Anything at 5 Live, get a phone call from producer Bosch. Delicious on the radio the next morning, the next night, and that's fine. And because of his name Delicious, because he's so friendly and smiley, I think people have maybe not realised just how serious this kid is. He was sent all around the globe in 2021. He was sent to tournaments he had no chance of winning. He fought his heart out. He'd win once, win twice, and then get beat in the 3rd fight. 5 or 6 defeats over an 18-month period in tournaments in places like Astana, places like Belgrade, places that, trust me, 30 years ago you never even went to. He's been going there and he's been learning his trade. He's a serious fighter with a fun name. Let's get it right. Because if Delicious isn't the best name in the Olympics here, then tell me what it is. Tell me what it is, because Delicious is absolutely glorious. He loves Delicious and he can really fight. If he gets through this first one, which I believe he will, if he gets through this first one, he'll get that confidence. But more than that, he'll galvanise the team. The only unfortunate thing is that by the time he fights, 3 of them have already boxed, and you know what the rest of that sentence is, and they could have easily lost.
Yeah, and one of those fighters that you said has got to sort of perform with the best fight of their lives is Charlie Davidson, presumably.
Yeah, Charlie has to be as good as she's ever been, just a little bit better, whereas 1 or 2 have to perform like double the best they've ever done. Charlie Davidson is against it. She's fighting a Turkish woman tonight at 7 p.m. UK time, 8 p.m. out here in Paris, called Hatice Akbas, who's won multiple medals around the world. Charlie Davidson is a remarkable story. Again, I would say that. I'm not going to come on here and tell you that there's no stories in the boxing team. I'm going to come on here and tell you there's 50 stories in the boxing team and give me another hour to tell the stories. You know, that's not the way I work. That is the way I work. Just put your feet up, get a cigar, and I'll wind me up, and I'll come back in an hour. So Charlie Davidson, at 7 years out, she had 3 children. 7 years out, she boxed all around the world when she was 13, 14, 15. 7 years out, comes back, she's gained about 10 kilos, she loses a little bit of it, she loses a little bit more, she gets half a chance to go to Tokyo, just a bit of a dream. Luckily Tokyo she was a totally different woman. She was unrecognisable to the kid, even though she was a mum of 3, calling her a kid mum of 3. She was a totally different woman, and she's got her head right. I've got a sneaky feeling if you at some point you ask me who might nick a medal, I just fancy Charlie will, plus 2 of her 3 kids are coming here. They were very young last time, and they're coming. I think Charlie Davidson, alongside Delicious, could become big stories in this team.
So she fights at 7 o'clock tonight. Yeah. Let's hear from her, because you've been talking to her.
Looking back now, it was all rushed. I never got to enjoy it because I was sort of fast-tracked because I had to be. Like you say, I come on the team, I had my assessment, I then got picked to go to Olympic qualifiers. Forever grateful. Honestly, that's what it was like. It was like, boom, I was there. The experience is what I needed. Yeah, it was all fast-tracked. Wasn't able to enjoy it, but this time I'm soaking up every single second, and honestly, I can't wait to perform.
Because literally the last time when we were getting ready for the Olympics, you're still trying to work out childcare, you've got 3 kids under 10, you're trying to do this. Whereas now, it doesn't get, they've got latchkeys. They can come in and make their own food. They're all adults nearly now.
That's it.
Kind of.
A lot better ages now. 12, 10, and 8. Like you say, the last Olympics they were babies, so they're treated like babies. But now they're more mature. The older two are coming out to watch me in Paris. So.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I can't wait, and to have them in the crowd and them cheering is just going to be phenomenal.
Are you looking forward to it? Are you looking forward to being an Olympic GB boxer again, and this time getting close to a medal, or getting to a medal? Are you looking forward to it, Charlie?
Honestly, I can't tell you how much I think about this every night I go to sleep, every day I wake up, every run I do, every session. No matter what I'm doing, I'm always thinking, that always comes to my mind. I'm competing again at my second Olympics, Paris Olympics, and it feels like it's at home because it's so close.
Yeah, of course.
The children come to watch, like I say, my family, my coaches. It's just, honestly, I'm so excited. I just can't wait. I don't know, it's like a kid at Christmas, but more excited than that, and I'm buzzing.
Did you relish this draw? Is she the kind of character who will go, all right, then bring it on?
Absolutely, even though she only weighs about 50 odd kilos, so she's about 8 stone.
This is bantamweight.
Yeah, they call it bantamweight. It's slightly different than the pro weight. Even she would have been. Of all of them, I mean, I know 4 of the 6 fairly well. The other 2 I know a little bit. But my gut feeling is that Charlie Davidson would have been. If you'd have had a measure on them, just checking their heartbeat when they were told the draw and how serious their opponents were, I have a feeling hers might have been like some of those marathon runners. You know, the ones that barely get a pulse. She's relishing it. Listen, she may be a mum of 3. Okay, she may be Charlie Davidson, she may be tiny, but there's something quite ferocious about Charlie Davidson. I think she's relishing. She's like that. You know, she's got the number 2 seed. If she had the number 1 seed, who she's got in the next fight, if she beats this woman, by the way, trust me, I wasn't kidding, chappers. I wasn't underselling this draw.
So it's number 2, then number 1.
Yeah, because the way they've done the seeding here isn't the way we've done isn't the way the seeding works in real life. So they've done the seeding here on whether you won your global competition. But of course, the problem is with that is that if you win the the Fiji, Tonga, the South Sea Islander thing, the Asian, the Pan Asian. They're not nowhere near as serious as the Europeans. The Europeans the major event across all of boxing. The European is the major event. It's the hardest one. So many countries, so many top countries. So really, the 3 or 4 in Europe are sometimes the 3 or 4 best.